everyone, my name is Harsh and in this video I'll be telling you about the file structure which we have when we are creating a default Flutter app. So this is the basic file structure which we are having when we are creating a basic app or the basic counter app in Flutter. So the first file or the first folder which is present in the main project directory is the Dart tool. So it contains all the files and folders related to Dart tool. Basically we don't interact with this folder much in our project or when we are working with some files in our project. The next one is the .idea directory, which is also like one of those folders which we generally ignore or are not interacting with throughout the project. The next one we have is the Android folder, which generally has all the files related to the Android version of our project. In this Android folder, we have various different files. So the files which are directly in the Android directory are the gitignore file, build.gradle file, and so on. So this is the build.gradle for the project, like for the Android part. So it has basic build script, the dependencies, and other things as well. Now in our app we have another source folder which has all the files and stuff related, like Kotlin files are present here or Java files are present here. There is another build.gradle file present. So this build.gradle is for this app directory, and here we specify the plugins which we are using, the compile SDK version which we want our app to have, and other things like the release version, and the dependencies can also be implemented here. Next thing which we talk about is that mostly when we are trying to implement Firebase in our app, so what we do is we generally move our Google services JSON file inside this app directory. So here we have to keep that JSON file, and we have to add some dependencies or plugins in the build.gradle file, so it is stored in the Firebase. Next we have build directory, which generally contains all the data related to the build, like all the build versions or the build APKs are present inside this build directory. We interact with it when we are there to use the apps which are built after we have run the command. Next we have the iOS directory. So those who know Swift or are working with Swift generally use this directory to make some changes to the project. But for those of you who don't know more about Swift, you can just ignore it, or if you want to implement something or you want to change something, so you need to mostly interact with the files present in the runner directory, specifically this info.plist. So sometimes you need to specify some things here. So this is the file. Apart from that, if you want to change the app image or like stuff like that, so you need to interact with this folder. So this was for the iOS directory. Now talking about lib, which is the main directory for our project. So here we create all the Dart files, say it be the UI part or the backend part or stuff like that. So this is the main or the directory where we generally make all our files related to Dart. The test directory generally contains the files, the unit test or the test cases which we write, which are need to be passed before the app is rolled out into production or is released. So some of the basic example of the tests which can be written are like we are fetching some data from a server and we want to see if the data is loaded correctly or not. So we can write a test case for it and we can specify that in this test directory. Now there are some files present here also. The first one is the git ignore file. So this is basically to ignore all those files we don't want to send on git. This is a metadata file. We don't interact with this file, and this is the .packages file which has some info about the packages. So we also don't use this. So the next file which we have is the project.iml file. So it is generally created as a module file for the project which we are working on. The next file we have is a pubspec.log file. So before talking about this, I like to talk about pubspec.yaml file. So this is a file where we specify our assets like images or fonts which we want to use in our apps, or we also specify the packages which are the external packages which have different features we want to implement in our project. So this is the file where we specify most of those things. Now pubspec.log is a file related to pubspec.yaml. So while two separate files are there, the reason behind this is that, for example, if you are using this project in some particular computer and you don't want to fetch all the things again and again whenever you are running this project in this same computer, all the dependencies which are fetched once are stored inside the pubspec.log file, so you don't need to fetch all the things again and again before running the app. So that's why this file is present here. Now what readme.md file is, it is basically a readme file for our project specifying all the details we want the user to see when he is looking at our GitHub repo. So these were the files or the directories which are present inside the default Flutter app which we create So that is it for this video.